So, when we talk about tariffs, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For most people, it's a tax on imported goods. And, you're not wrong. But that tax, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story, the real cost for American businesses, is buried under a mountain of mind numbing complexity. Let's dig into the hidden costs of trade. All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at how the entire U.S. tariff system has been radically transformed. Then we'll get to the heart of the problem, what one expert calls death by 1,000 paper cuts. We'll unpack the 5 big reasons things got so complex, look at who's really paying the price, and finally reveal the true hidden costs of trade. So first things first, how did we even get here? To really get it, you have to understand just how dramatic this shift has been. The system went from something predictable to, well, Byzantine is honestly the perfect word for it. I mean, think about this. Just a few years back, in 2017, the system was pretty straightforward. Businesses could navigate it. But today, it's this sprawling, unprecedented maze of bureaucracy. The rules of the game weren't just tweaked, they were completely torn up and rewritten. Back in 2017, if you were an importer, you really only had to worry about 3 major legal regimes for tariffs. Think of them as 3 sets of rules. Just 3. That's a number you can wrap your head around. And today, that number has absolutely exploded. We're talking about a whopping 17 different tariff measures, all spread across 7 different legal frameworks. This explosion in the number of rules is really the foundation of this whole problem. And this brings us to the central idea of this whole explainer. It's not one single tariff that's causing all the pain. It's the crushing, cumulative weight of all this complexity, a burden that's become absolutely crippling for so many American businesses. This quote from someone who deals with this every single day just nails it, doesn't it? It's not one big, fatal blow. It's this endless series of small, frustrating, and really expensive hurdles. Every new form, every new rule, every little exception, it's just another paper cut. And boy, are they adding up. So, how did we get to this death by 1,000 paper cut situation? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It was really a combination of things. There are 5 distinct, interlocking reasons that have created this mess. Let's walk through them. Okay, first up, it's not just one new rule. It's this tangled web of different laws and regulations that all overlap with each other. A single product you import might be subject to multiple different tariffs all at the same time. It forces companies to navigate a legal minefield just to bring goods into the country. And you can see it right here. We went from just 3 major legal frameworks that companies needed to understand to 7. That's more than double the number of rule books that businesses and their lawyers have to master just to stay on the right side of the law. Reason number 2 is all about scale. We're talking massive, massive scale. These special tariff rules used to be a niche thing, affecting a tiny little slice of goods. Not anymore. Now they're completely mainstream. Get this. In 2017, less than 1% of imports had to deal with these kinds of special tariffs. Today, it's merely half of everything that comes into the United States. What was once a rare, tiny exception has now become the rule for a huge chunk of our economy. The third factor? Pure instability. The tariff code used to be something you could plan around. It was stable. Now, it's in a constant state of flux. It's a shifting, unpredictable landscape that's almost impossible for a business to plan for. So we've gone from these infrequent, predictable updates that you could see coming to a situation where huge, economically important changes to tariffs and the exceptions to them can literally happen at any moment. Imagine trying to run a business like that, trying to set your prices or manage your supply chain. It's a nightmare. So what happens when nobody understands the rules? Well, you get a mad dash for answers. With all this confusion, companies are desperately trying to get help. American businesses are just flooding U.S. Customs with requests for official guidance at a really alarming rate just to figure out what the rules actually are. And finally, we get to the most convoluted reason of all. Just figuring out how much money a company owes the government has gone from being simple math to this incredibly complex, multi-step ordeal. I mean, just look at this. You have to check for multiple tariff types, verify exclusions based on where it came from, cross-reference different chapters of the legal code. It's an absolute labyrinth. And honestly, this is a simplified version of what it actually takes. So after seeing a process that convoluted, you have to ask, who's actually stuck dealing with it? Well, the answer is American companies. They're the ones caught in this gigantic web of red tape. And the consequences in the real world are pretty stark. For small businesses, which don't have teams of lawyers, it's a huge, often impossible burden to bear. The only people who are guaranteed to do well here are the customs lawyers and consultants. Their business is booming. Meanwhile, one honest mistake can lead to massive penalties, and the confusion is everywhere. It's not just companies. Even the officials themselves can get tripped up by the rules. And that brings us to the big takeaway here. When we debate tariffs, we almost always just focus on the tax number. But the true cost, it's so much bigger than that. We really need to start thinking in terms of the total tariff cost. That's the direct tax, sure, but you have to add in all the money and all the time spent on compliance, on lawyers, and just on the sheer effort of navigating this bureaucratic maze. It's a massive extra expense that you rarely ever hear about in the headlines. And to put that into perspective, the direct tax burden from these tariffs is a staggering $30 billion a month. A month! But the powerful argument being made is that the regulatory costs, the cost of all those paper cuts, is arguably even worse. It leaves us with a really critical question for any future debate on trade policy. When we talk about the cost of tariffs, are we focusing so much on the tax that we're completely ignoring the biggest price American companies actually have to pay? The one that comes from being slowly bled dry by bureaucracy? It's something to think about.